Ready. Play.
Jessica Pegula against Emma Raducanu. Carson, let's begin with Emma and her path to this stage. It's included wins over Ishii, the Japanese player, in the first round in straight sets. Then Emma Navarro, which is probably the one that stood out the most just because of how dramatic it was, that third set tie break. And then after that, of course, she was comfortably up on Kessler, and Kessler, I think, was an obvious banana skin for her. In fact, many people were tipping Kessler to win that one, but ultimately Emma prevailed after Kessler retired midway through the second set. And then Emma Raducanu saw off Anisimova, also in straight sets in the round of 16. So what have you made, Carson, of that progress to the quarterfinals, Emma?
I think the match in her path that's been the most instructive is probably the Emma Navarro match right now. Just that's nothing against her in the last two wins, but both Kessler and Anisimova were a little bit hampered in her path. Kessler obviously ended up retiring. Anisimova had a very late match the night before against Mira Andreeva, and then was very early on in the day and was dealing with some blisters as well. So it's a very good win still. Anisimova is a great player, but maybe hard to pick out too much when your opponent is physically hindered like that. The Emma Navarro match, she was absolutely incredible in that. I was especially impressed in the third set. First set, obviously a tiebreak win there, and then the second set kind of got away from her a little bit quickly. She lost that one 2-6, and then going into the third set, I think we've seen this from Emma before, where she plays a tight first set, second set doesn't go her way, and then third set, she just kind of fades away and doesn't find her way back into this match. I was very impressed with how she handled that moment against Emma. Her shot making has been incredible this entire tournament. Forehand especially, I've been quite impressed with.
Okay, nice. Have you seen much of Emma this week, Brenna?
Yeah, I was going to highlight that match as well. I was in the building. I don't know for how much of set two, but I was there for the full third set.
Okay.
This is a little bit of like a I'm back type of match, type of win. It feels like for Emma.
You mean back US Open winning Emma, or just back?
Yeah.
Really?
I think we'll find somewhere in the middle there. Okay. Gaining rhythm, gaining traction. That I felt like that was going to be her match. Despite that seesaw third set, because she went down a break and then ends up serving for the match and fails, and then gets broken at 5-all, and then has to claw her way back in. But yeah, I think definitely the shot making, like Carson mentioned, like that forehand, and obviously I think that match point video against Anisimova, like her movement has just been incredible. So you can tell like how much she's worked on her fitness and that confident ability in her movement will definitely propel her game even further. And I definitely just pick on like her variety, different heights and weights in her shots. That's been something that stood out to me. So yeah, like we said, huge win here. The last two wins, they're wins nonetheless, and they're later round wins. So only positive.
I mean, the names as well. If we put aside some of the asterisks, which I think Carson is absolutely right to highlight, and I would add to that as well in a second. But if we also look at some of the defense, I think has been pretty impressive. She's super well known for her attacking abilities, but I think against Anisimova, she was probably a little bit more patient, and Anisimova, for whatever reason, she does have off days. She's either super on it or super off it, and I would suggest she was off it, although, as Carson highlighted, she did have one or two other travails going on as well. But the fitness coach as well came to mind when you mentioned her fitness there, Brenna, because although there's still a lot of instability in terms of the coaching scenario with Raducanu, she did, of course, take on Yutaka Yakanuma. I hope I'm saying Nakamura. I hope I'm saying that name right. Earlier on, I think at the beginning of this year, may even have been back in it last year, but there's been some stability there, at least for a few months. And even the coaching situation, I think sometimes maybe we get carried away in tennis with that and maybe overplay it sometimes. And of course, she has got Mark Petchey at least in her box this week, and so I guess he's giving her something, even if it's just a guide. And I think with Djokovic going off at a tangent somewhat with Andy Murray, I think sometimes it's just great to have someone to bounce off and just to feel good around. And I think Emma does feel good with Mark nearby, and it's continuing this week. Yeah, I do think that Carson, though, I just want to sort of add what you were saying about the wins over Kessler, but particularly against Anisimova, which I saw more of, actually. Yeah, there was a lot of course, and I understand it, a lot of British excitement around that result. But if you watch it, you know, it was one of those where actually Emma probably didn't actually have to play her best. And I was really pleased that both of you highlighted her win over Navarro, especially the mental strength that she showed there. And yeah, I probably sort of fall somewhere in between what everyone is saying, in that I'm not quite sure if we're looking at Raducanu winning a slam in the next 18 months or maybe even ever again. But will she be, you know, a top 50 comfortable player when healthy? Yes. Is she going to be top 20? Yeah. Is she going to be top 10? Yeah. I mean, obviously, she has been. I think did she scrape into the top 10 in the past? Either of you can shout at me and tell me the answer to that.
I believe she was briefly.
Yeah, I think she might have been briefly. Raducanu career high. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, I'd quickly step in and just say,
yeah, number 10. She reached high.
Okay, number 10. Yeah, from what I feel, she has, I know this is a fun term that's been used a lot in the States. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but aura. She has a little bit of that aura going for her again. Okay. It feels like looks a lot happier on court. And obviously, yeah, with this coaching situation, there's a lot of question marks on the outside. But that's not necessarily hindering her play at the moment. And obviously, that's something that you need to tackle and get situated as the season progresses. But that's just my take in terms of she's looking better, probably feeling better, and that can go a long way in terms of how you play on court.
Carson, let's switch over to Jessica Pegula. Since getting to the final at the US Open, I know she's still sort of crept up the rankings, but I think it's been more a case of one or two players above her haven't been showing that much consistency, and Pegula is still semi-consistent, but I don't think her level has been that close to the level that she showed in New York last year, where she broke through a really incredible barrier for herself in terms of never going beyond the quarters at a Grand Slam before. She's obviously beaten Pera, Kalinskaya in a really tight match as well, and then Kostyuk in the previous round before coming into this match with Emma. What have you made of either Jessica in this tournament or anything really, what I've just said about her form over the last 6 months or so?
I think you're correct. Her form has dropped off a little bit, and she's still playing well. She's still playing like a top 20 player, but maybe not quite like what you would expect a top 5 player to look like. Through the course of this year so far, there have still been some very good wins, but I do feel like the level of her game has dropped off a little bit, and part of it is just how aggressive she is with aiming balls right at all of the lines. If you're a little bit off, that's something that can be difficult to fix if that's your entire game style. So I remember, I think it was after I can't remember which match it was after. I think it was after the Kalinskaya when she said in her on-court interview after the match that she wouldn't advise anyone to play quite as aggressively as she does. So it's something that is unique to her. And it's just been a little bit off this year, but this tournament, especially this last match against Marta Kostyuk, quite a straightforward victory, 2-3.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Kalinskaya must honestly hate the sight of Jessica Pegula, especially when it comes to third set tiebreaks. Mario and I were in Berlin last year, and I think Kalinskaya may have had 5 match points that either in the tiebreak or in the build up to the tiebreak and then the tiebreak itself. and Pegula emerged the winner that day, and she did so again in a super, super tight match in the round of 32. Brenna, what have you made of Pegula's run to the quarters here?
Yeah, I think she's been good. Like I was at that match as well. I
Okay.
watched that end of second set, third set. It was a really close match. Like Kalinskaya could have had it. Um, like both backers serve really well. But yeah, you talk about. I think that mental situation for Kalinskaya came into play in that third set tiebreak. She actually did get the lead 2-1, so job was done there. And then I think it was what 6 straight points. But yeah, I mean, talk about like aggressive play style. Pegula, these courts, suit her a lot better than Indian Wells. So low bouncing, quicker bounce.
Yeah, sorry, go on, Brenna.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I've always found Jessica pretty strong mentally, and I think that final in Berlin, and perhaps the same again on Sunday in that match against Kalinskaya may have been the difference. But despite the fact that she was losing in quarterfinals, I felt with her that a lot of the time it was just playing better players on the day, with the exception perhaps of the one at Wimbledon against Vondrousova. I did feel that was probably there for her. I think she was up a break and may even have been up a double break, but she was very close to a double break in that deciding set. And then I think there was a roof closing scenario and she lost momentum. And Vondrousova not only won that match, but went on to take the title. Okay, well, head-to-head between Pegula and Raducanu is 1 each, by the way, which may or may not surprise some of you. I'm not sure. But yeah, so they've had 2 matches together. Those 2 matches coming in 2022 in Cincinnati, where Pegula won in straight sets, which would have been just about a year after, of course, Raducanu won the US Open itself. From memory, did Raducanu play Serena Williams in that tournament as well? I think she may have done. Did she? I think she did, Raducanu. I'm going to check this right now. Raducanu, I've got a feeling that she played Serena Williams because that was just before, of course, Serena retired. Yeah, she did. She won 6-4, 6-love. And then a couple of weeks later, Serena actually had a pretty good run at the US Open for what was obviously her last tournament. Anyway, so that was the first match between these two. And the other one, Carson, was, where was it? It was in Eastbourne last year. Yes. Yes, I remember that one now pretty well. Conditions that may favour Raducanu, but I certainly think Pegula is pretty good on the grass as well. Of course, having won Berlin probably just before. I think Berlin precedes Eastbourne on the calendar, if memory serves. But yeah, head-to-head 1 each. Where is this going to be won and lost, Carson? And basically, who's going to win it? Because, of course, you did predict Anisimova to upset the woman of the moment, Mira Andreeva, earlier this week. So you're doing okay on the predictions. What are you thinking in terms of this match tomorrow?
So the biggest factor, and we haven't even talked about it in this match yet, is that after the Marta Kostyuk match, Jess Pegula, who's been playing doubles throughout this tournament with Ashlyn Kruger, had to retire 3 games into their match with an injury. So there's a little bit of concern there, obviously. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she has 2 days to prepare for this and get back to feeling well on court. But to me, it's kind of a question of how healthy is she? If she is healthy, as Brenner mentioned, these court conditions do suit her a little bit better. She plays pretty well here and has historically played well at this tournament. But if she is injured at all, Emma's defending right now could be a massive issue for her if she's not able to get some easy balls past her. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence a little bit with this one. I think if Jess is healthy, she can win this, but Emma can absolutely win this match as well.
All right, I'm going to give you another minute or so to you don't have to go sets or anything, just say, you can do what Damien and I tend to do, which is like, I think X player is the favorite, or I'm leaning this way or whatever. But we'll come back to you in a second, Carson, with that leaning or whatever it is. Brenner, tell me your thinking.
Yeah, well, I'll just say this is as tight as a match as I could, put together. I think the odds, I guess I'm doing this backwards, but Pegula is way too much of a favorite for me. I think I've been so confident in Emma in her last, 2 matches, but even going back to that third set against Navarro, her poise was truly there. But yeah, talk about like Pegula's been so comfortable from the baseline. And I will highlight that I think the retirement from doubles actually came after her match on Sunday against Kalinskaya, and then she did play the
Got
Kostyev
it.
match.
Got
What
it.
was that, yesterday? So, in terms of fitness, like I think all should be okay, especially with this day off. But yeah, I think like big moments, big moments. I'll also bring up like variety. Pegula doesn't play with a lot of variety. She did
Mm-hmm.
try and work it in her match against Kalinskaya, the drop shot specifically, and it just wasn't working.
Okay.
So talk about like Carson talking about that baseline play and like a little bit of redlining. Those margins might get a little bit too small, and that might favor Emma a bit more. So yeah, I think it's really tight.
Go on. Go on. Give us a winner. Just give me a winner. Because
Emma
I've got one.
Raducanu. I'll
Yeah.
go Emma.
I'm going
Yeah.
Emma as well. And not for any crazy bias. Honestly, I'm pretty sort of fairly balanced when it comes to the British players. But yeah, I just think in a way you both talked me into it. I wasn't sure, and I was thinking about it before we went live, and I thought, okay, yeah, I think I might just lean that way. And actually, it was both of you just listening to you in the last 5 or 10 minutes that made me a little bit more sure. But I mean, it is super tight for sure. And yeah, but I am leaning Emma. What are you thinking, Carson?
I think I'm leaning 55 to 45 for Emma. I think it will be a tight match. Still, maybe like a 4-5 situation as far as the scoreline. But I think Emma is a little bit of a favorite here.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.